Hey everyone, and welcome to another week of Kinder Chat. This week I am sharing all about a center activity that you can use any time of year. It is great for your students because it gets them up and moving, and you can practice it with pretty much any skill. So the activity is Write the Room. And Write the Room can be used in phonics, with sight words, it can be used with math, pretty much anything. The purpose of Write the Room is that students will walk around the room and find little cards that you have hanging up. And then they will use the recording sheet to fill in the blank. Either write the word, maybe they're spelling a word, maybe they're just writing the beginning sound, maybe they are solving an addition problem. Pretty much the opportunities are endless. So with Write the Room, it is really tricky to teach kindergarteners how to properly use these Write the Room activities, especially when you're doing them on their own. So my first tip is to always make sure that you do it as a whole group first, a couple times, like 3 to 5 times as a whole group. That way you can teach your students the correct way of doing Write the Room so that they do not interrupt others during center time. The next thing is to make sure you have clear expectations for Write the Room. So there are a few things you want to think of. First of all, when you are hanging up your little cards around the room, you want to make sure that they are spaced out and that they're not too close to another center. I know in the past I've made the mistake of putting a card literally at one of the centers, and those students would always be tempted to talk to the kids at that center. So it's just easiest if you try to spread them throughout the room where they are not going to be an issue. The other thing is make sure that they're not too hard. Sometimes it's fun to really challenge your students to try to get them to find the words, but when all of the students are struggling finding one of the words, it's not going to be very beneficial. So try to have them in plain sight. I know I would always have one, on the wall. I might have one on top of a desk. I might have one on the back of a chair. I just quickly put tape on and stuck them all around the classroom, and it took me about 2 minutes to just stick them up really quick. I know one of my friends, she's Miss El Gundy on Instagram, I'll link her below, but she had a brilliant idea of using those Target adhesive squares and placing them around her classroom. And these cards are able to be fit inside of the Target adhesive pockets. So all she had to do every time she wanted to do a Write the Room activity is just slip them in the pocket and leave it. And that was it. So that is another idea you can use if you don't want to spend so much time putting up the cards. One of the clear expectations that you want with your students is limiting how many students should be at one of these cards at a time. So before pre-COVID, I would say about 3 students were able to be at a card because you could easily fit 3 students looking at the same card at one time. However, now with COVID and social distancing, my suggestion would just to be 1 kid per card. So this would be really difficult to do during a whole group activity, but during centers when you only have 4 to 6 kids in a group, this is perfect. They should all be at different cards at different times. And the way I would teach my students to kind of problem solve if there's already a student standing at the card, I would have them either wait or they would go find a different card and then come back to that card later when nobody was there. So making sure that you have a limit on how many kids are at each card will help your students make sure that there's not 10 kids at one card at one time. So now that you have your expectations, you have your cards around the room, it's time to go. So you do not need to have clipboards for your students. You can have them use one of those mini whiteboards. You can have them use a book. You can honestly just give them the paper and show them okay, if it's on the wall, you can put it on the wall and write. Or if it's on the table, you can put it on the table and write. So it's completely doable even if you do not have a clipboard. So, okay, and now differentiating. So with your students, they're going to be at a variety of different levels. So I always have a challenge from some of my students to kind of challenge them after they finish the right room, because some students will be able to finish this in very short time. They'll find all the cards, they'll write down all the answers on their paper, and they'll be done. So I'm going to show you an example of how I would differentiate for this Write the Room. And you can find this one, the link will be below. So this one is about rhyming pairs. So the students are looking at the picture, they're saying that this is a mouse, and then they're finding which word on here rhymes with the word mouse. So they would see this word rhymes with mouse because it's house. So they'd write mouse here. So for some of my higher students, what I would do is after they were done, they would pick two of the words. So maybe they would pick mouse and house. They would flip it to the back and they would write a sentence using both of those words in it. Another way to differentiate would be to have them maybe write the word on top of the picture. So maybe they would write cake first and then find the word that rhymed with cake. So that's another option for them to do. So it is a great activity. I hope that you try it in your classroom. Make sure that you check out the link below. I also have a blog post with even more information about Write the Room activities and how you can teach your kindergartners to use them in your classroom. So that's it for today. I will see you next time. Bye.